I never take my own advice, and sometimes I start the show 1 minute late. Whoopsie daisy, whoopsie daisy, whoopsie daisy. Sometimes I start the show too late. Sometimes I start the show too late. Sometimes I start the show and it's 1 minute late. Beep, 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 beep. What's up, everybody? What's going on? Oops, I have the... Oops, I left that thing up. How's everybody doing? I feel like my teeth are all grindy. I was just eating a whole bunch of cookies. I was just eating cookies as fast as I could. I was eating all these cookies pre-show. And get all jacked up. Get all jacked up on cookies and start freaking out on the internet. What's up, everybody? Good to see you on a Friday. Good to be here. Who was first to the chat today? Jake, Hussey, Preston, John, quickly followed by Frank Dominguez, Sopo Loco, Bentley Pascal, Will's Aquariums, The Fish Tank Barn, Ed Stewart. It's Nature Man. Terrence Blanton. Terrence Blanton. Candy Overhauls. Joel G. from New Zealand. Alyssa Bentley. Oh, gotta scroll. Rocky's Rocky. Dreams of Aquariums. Dope. Now we're doubling up. Mark Dibble. Leslie's Fish Room. Daryl Deemer. Oh, I'm running out now and everybody's chatting super fast. What's up, everybody? Glad to see you on a... glorious Friday. I think it's Friday. There's still cookies. I still have cookies in my mouth. Those delicious cookies. They were sent by a fan. I make them last, though. They were sent a long time ago. I opened a new package of cookies because they're delicious and losing my mind slowly but surely by eating so many cookies. It's rotting my brain, but it's the good way to go. It's a good way to go, right? That's like the best way to expire from the earth, right? Is cookie overdose, I think. Like just too many cookies. Chubby Guppy's here asking, what up, everyone? Yeah, what up? Yeah, what up? Hey, everybody. What's up? Terrence Blanton says, you sound like that guy from Homestar Runner. I do like Homestar Runner, so yeah, that's not bad. Terrence Bland says, with the follow-up there, Strong Bad. I could do a Strong Bad impression. Yes, I could probably do Strong Bad pretty well. Hold on. It's like, open up the email. Open up the email. It's been such a long time. If you guys don't know Homestar Runner, it was like 10 years ago. It was all the rage on the internet. And they're still funny, so if you go back and watch them now. And they might be making new ones. I remember seeing something that came out that said that they were making new ones, but I don't know. I don't know. Let's see here. Johan is here. Johan and Johan and Johan. Well, if you've never been here before, well, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Friday's show on this channel, we generally talk about, let me say, generally on this channel, I talk about aquariums. I also talk about some of the farming and gardening and stuff. And I also talk about shrimp and plants and a bunch of other nonsense, but that's generally the gist. Sometimes I talk about computers exploding, among other things, but it's sort of free form. But Friday's show, we answer the questions from the Patreon page. What is the Patreon page? If you don't know what Patreon is at this point in time, I would find it odd, but... just to let you know, Patreon is a third-party hosted site, so it doesn't have anything to do with YouTube. It's just its own website where we sort of crowdsource being able to do YouTube videos, instructional videos, live streams, all this kind of stuff. That's how it's funded. It's funded by the fans, and it's a once-a-month thing. It can be from $1 a month up to, go crazy if you feel like it. You don't have to, but it could be like $1 a month. It's sort of like NPR. It's like, hey, this is funded by viewers like you, right? Now, there's a community page on Patreon, and that's where we get our questions from on Friday for a good portion of the show. Yeah, I do have the chat open. If there's some kind of pressing issue or whatever, you can post in there, and maybe I'll read it. Maybe I don't know. No guarantees. Sometimes it's scrolling by so fast I don't even know how to read. But I try to read it as much as I can and try to answer those questions too. If you're watching this later on, subscribe, notification bell, all that nonsense, blah, 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 and I'll give you a notification when we go live. But typically we go live on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is -8 GMT, I think. -8 GMT, as far as I know, I think. That's when it is, right? Something like that. Candy Overhauls just posted the link to the Patreon to make it easier on you guys in the live chat. Of course, it's in the details down below, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff. Yes. So, we have ourselves a glorious Friday here. And we're gonna have a lot of questions and a lot of cool stuff that we're going to run through. We're going to go through that as quickly as possible. I just want to point out, anybody notice this little lamb back here? Yes, my background doesn't really have too much to do with aquariums and the stuff that we normally talk about here, but that's because this room is turning into a nursery. We have a brand new baby. Oh, hold on. Here's where we get super high-tech on the show. Olivia. We have a brand new baby, and this room will be turning into a nursery. It's about 60-40 now. It's about 60% nursery and about 40% office, maybe 50-50. Let's give it a 50-50 just to, just to respect on how much space I encroach on in here, right? Terrence Blanton says he's over in Spokane. What's up, Pacific Northwest? That's where I hail from, not Spokane, but I hail from the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Tacoma, Washington of the United States. Buh. Yeah, a baby. Alrighty. If you guys do happen to go and post to the Patreon during the show, that will be handled on next week. I appreciate you guys popping over there and putting stuff on it. I can't reload the page without reviewing whatever got posted. I've never really gotten anything that negative posted on the Patreon, but we do have to give it an old looky-loo before we go throwing it up onto YouTube. We got to make sure we're in the YouTube standards, right? Otherwise, we get demonetized or whatever. I don't know. We get in trouble. We get in trouble. You know what I mean? Sloth the Monster says 3% talk of fish so far. Yep. Yeah. What up? How you doing? You having a good Friday? You cranky? Yeah. Sorry. Sorry that you're cranky. But maybe I should just start out the show just like, yeah, you need to really take a consideration on your bacterial load in your aquarium, and just make sure that you can handle adding a fish or whatever. Like, maybe I should just start the show that way, like all just Captain Random, like in the middle of talking about some kind of fish thing. Right? Should I? Man, maybe I should do that in the future and just be mid-sentence, like, well, with those kinds of shrimp, you definitely want to blah, 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 right? Yeah, we got to do the intro, man. We got to do the beginning of the show. That's why I sing and do the loading page and say hi to people and get it warmed up and stuff, That's just how it goes. That's how it goes. This isn't a 3-minute video. It's like an hour. It's like an hour, bros. And I get it. I've had a lot of people mention to me over the years that they're the main reason that they go to YouTube is just for really short informational videos, and that's the only thing that they ever want to watch. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, man. I do some short videos and stuff like that are to the point on just one topic, but this is the show I like to make. I like to make the long format show and stuff like that and be able to talk about things at length. And, so maybe it's not for everybody, and I get it. Mad props to people that don't like long shows. I don't know. But that's this show. You know, why not? And people ask, like, what kind of show do I like? And I listen to, I like listen to podcasts. I like the in-depth stuff. I listen to books on, listen to books on tape. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And that's what I like. So that's kind of why I make long format shows. I've been doing this a while, and that's why I make them long, because I like them long. And Gillis says he's here for the long ramblings, and it's the Joel and Joel show. My name is actually Joel, just the same as Joel G right there. And there was a point in time where it was just me talking to the internet, and Mr. Gillett was the only one here. And occasionally Steve, you know. Steve would pop in, you know, and be like, hey, I'm Steve. And I'd be like, hey, Steve, how you doing, Steve? Good to see you, Steve. Steve. Wherever Steve is, he's going to watch this later and be like, why are you talking about me? Leslie's Fish Room's driving while listening, so I'll have to keep the chat short. Oh, yeah, don't be texting and driving. That's just so dangerous, right? I always just pull off. I pull off the road and just stop going wherever I was going. Then again, you just getting in your car around here is, just getting in your car around here is like just getting in your car and waiting anyhow, even when you're on the road, because the cars don't go anywhere. You just get in your car and you go wait on the freeway and just hang out there. That's just kind of the thing. That's what people like to do out here in Western Washington. They just get in their car and go hang out on the freeway. You know, it was a little bit weird. It was a little bit odd yesterday, you know, heading up north. I was going up north to help build some stuff. And, I had to have the baby with me, and then all that kind of stuff. And we dropped the baby off at Grandma's house, which my mom has been super awesome to, watch Olivia while I go work out in the field. Obviously, I do work here. I do work out in the field. And my mom has been super awesome to be hanging out with Olivia and watching her and stuff. But yesterday was just next level with the tomfoolery going on the freeway because, I left here at 6:30, didn't get to my mom's house until almost 9 o'clock. So 2.5 hours, and to not really go that far, about 40 miles. And at the very beginning of it, I go and I get on I-5, and I go out there, and I'm like, oh, this traffic. Okay, this is kind of lame. Whatever. But we're like going super slow. We're going super slow. And eventually we get up to where the accident is, and nobody has cleared the vehicles from the road. Right? They were all just in the middle lane, like lined up, parked, because they had gotten in an accident. There was but it was just like a 5-car fender bender, right? Like nobody was hurt. There wasn't any of that nonsense going on. It was just people's cars were, cosmetically damaged. I don't know. There might have been one of them that stopped working, but it was kind of interesting to me that they all just stopped right there because they just had the accident, right? And they just stayed in the middle of the freeway. So that's what the traffic jam was. Like all these cars were parked in the freeway with people waving their hands around like, well, you hit me and I hit him and I was just like, oh, this is weird. I don't know what pull your car off, man. Nobody wants to see anybody get in an accident, but if it does happen, you pull off to the side of the road. You figure it out on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, dude, get out the street. But to start out the show here, we do have a question from Jackson K. He took his last name off of his YouTube, probably because people like me were butchering it, not saying his last name completely wrong. But Jackson K says, do you think that supporting the wild-caught trade can actually be environmentally and ecologically sensible and advantageous? I would have to believe that a lot of these exporting areas would turn into palm oil farming, deforestation, etc. if they have the aquarium trade supporting the economy. And I think this is a great question. I think this has a lot to do with most of the people, the first world people listening, that this might be something that none of us think about, especially on a daily basis. Like, none of us are really getting up and going like, what is going on in Brazil right now? Most of us are looking out the window figuring out what we got to do, right? So it's probably not something that we think about on a regular basis, but I don't necessarily think that supporting the wild-caught trade is necessarily the answer. I don't think that it's a simple answer, and I certainly don't think that it's a singular answer. I feel like it's a many nuanced situation. It's like I feel like it's really easy for us to get and direct our frustrations at stuff like palm oil farming and things like that. But the first thing that we need to think about is the well-being of the human community, right? We'd have to imagine what is going on with the human community in those areas that they would be willing to clear cut, slash and burn, and do a lot of, immediate destruction to the area in order to, make money and survive and feed their children and that kind of stuff. You can't just leave them, you can't just leave people without anything to do. I think that's where it starts. I think it would definitely start out at the point where we have to make a consideration of what's going on in that area, that specific area, because obviously it's going to be different wherever you go. I mean, if you go down to Chile, they've been doing farming in a lot of they've been doing fish farming inside the inlets and coves and stuff like that, and it is just decimating the coastline. But, of course, the people there are like, okay, maybe we'll stop doing this, but what are we going to do if we don't do this? Are we just going to starve to death? And I would never ask anybody to do that. I don't think, I'm not somebody that encourages treating animals or fish or anything like that poorly. Some of you out there know that have been following the channel for a long time. I was vegan for almost 5 years, just for, health and environmental reasons. I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with, eating meat or anything like that. But, it is one way to live a lifestyle and things, but I just don't, I wish there was just one answer, and I really don't think that there is one answer, but I think that the main focus is where we would need to be is like, how are we going to support the communities that are there? And wild-caught fishing, wild-caught live fish trade really only supports a couple of people. There just isn't that many people that do it. And one of the areas that we saw that, in America, we saw that, Piaba amongst other groups and stuff were trying to fight back against Hawaii passing legislation to stop catching wild tangs, the yellow tangs down there. It's a fishery that is, regularly drawn from that they catch the wild yellow tangs, and there are a bunch of fishermen that do that. But if you start to think about it in terms of, well, what is it doing to the environment down there, and how many people is it supporting, right? And you start to think like, well, if Piaba and other groups raised $200,000, $300,000 to pay lawyers to fight no longer allowing catching yellow tangs, it's almost like, why didn't you just raise $300,000 so that we could retrain the guys who are doing the wild, or the guys and gals that are doing the wild, the fish collecting, or like help them do something or whatever? Because, if we make something illegal, right, like catching yellow tangs, what are those people going to do? They're probably just going to catch them illegally, right? I'm not saying anybody, I'm not saying that anybody is going to do anything illegal or not, but if you're thinking about it, like, if there's somebody who's got a kid at home, like little Olivia, right? And the only way that they can bring home food for that baby is to like go catch wild fish, bring them somewhere, and exchange it super cheaply. It's not even really necessarily a sustainable situation for that human. Now, one thing that we know about humans is that humans are super crafty. So if you take something away, they're just going to figure a workaround one way or another, right? So do I think catching stuff wild is is it sustainable? I don't necessarily think it's sustainable just to go one way or the other. You know, I think that we do need to catch some wild species, but I think at this point in time, if we want to support and create something that is sustainable moving forward. Now, I was talking to Heiko Blair about this, is that he was talking about, we were talking about the fact that, you know, yellow tangs, people have started breeding them in aquaculture situations. So you think, you know, indoors in a warehouse, in a enclosed situation, it's an aquacultured fish, right? They've started that happens now. People can actually breed the yellow tangs, right? You know, but previous to that, it was considered, with air quotes, impossible. You can't do that, right? But if we think about it, so if we start breeding those in aquaculture, you've actually created a business that needs some sustaining in its own right. And it's not depleting from somewhere else unless they need to possibly go catch a couple of wild ones, right? But it's just that right there, in my mind, is a perfect example of like, well, Piaba could have taken that $300,000 and opened up an aquaculturing place, right, in Hawaii that the guys that go catch the fish could work at, right? Then it's like, oh, now we have tracked income for these guys and gals, like whoever these fishermen are. They could go work there. They have an income. We're making more of the fish, breeding the fish. They're aquacultured fish, so they're going to have less diseases. They're going to be much hardier for the aquarium culture. So it's even better for, you know, people that have aquariums to buy those aquariums, right? So it is. I think that's the better route. I think personally, I think that's the better route, and I see a lot better results. You know, for instance, I don't know where this YouTube video is. You could probably find it, but you can look up like catching Otocinclus in the wild, and you will see one of the examples of some of the indigenous guys down there. They put toxin into the water, right? They put toxin into the river, which affects all the fish. It doesn't just affect the Otocinclus; it affects all the fish. It's a combination of like cocoa, like the cocaine plant, cloves, and some industrial toxin. I don't know. I'm sure it's probably like some trade secret that they have or whatever. But they poison the whole river. Now, the Otocinclus have a tendency to, when that goes on and they're having those problems, they go into these little estuaries off the river where the water's not flowing as fast. They go over there to kind of, you know, just be sick or whatever. And they can just net out, you know, 6,000 fish. And like, you take this big net, dunk it in there, you can catch like a ton of Otocinclus. They just put it in a bag, throw it in a box, and ship it off. And if you speak Spanish, you can hear what they're saying is yeah, I'm going to get 5,000 pesos for that. And whichever country that they're in, if you start to convert whatever it is, you know, in whatever country that they're in, you know, you can start to convert in some of the areas. I mean, like, well, maybe it's not pesos. Who else has pesos down there? Oh, that's just Mexico. Yeah, so let's see. So I think this was probably before the conversion. If it was pesos, it was probably somewhere in Mexico. So right now, 1 peso is 0.052 US dollars. So if we get yeah. So let's say If you get 1,000 pesos, it's $50, basically. So if you think about it, the guys went out there, they worked for one day, they sent out 6,000, whatever, 10,000, however many fish are in that bag. It's just a big old, like 40-liter bag or whatever. And they fill it up, stick it in a box, and ship it off. And that's pretty much all the care that they put into it. They just double bag it, right? And stick it in a cardboard box and mail it out. That's pretty much all the precaution that goes into it. And if you think about it, there's like 3 or 4 of them out there. Let's say they made 5,000 pesos, so that's $250, but split it 4 or 5 ways. Those guys went out and made $50, and for that much loss of life, right? Because what else is sick in the river, right? So ultimately, to me, a lot of the wild fishing is just a quick cash grab, but you could also look at one of the indigenous groups down in Brazil, I think it was Brazil. Don't quote me on that, but Steve Ranella went down there because Steve Ranella, not only does he do bow hunting, but he also does like bow hunting of fish, right? So you think of like alligator guards and stuff like that. They were down there, or they went all the way down to South America. They hiked all the way through the woods, went on this like hunting trek with the indigenous people there. I think he stayed for a month or something like that with them, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. I don't know. He was there, but they filmed a lot of it. They made a bunch of videos on it, and realistically, so here's what's funny. So what this indigenous tribe used to do is they would take these hunters, right? Or sorry, what they used to do is they would wait until the flood would recede, right? Then they would go out and they would catch like big arapaima and stuff like that, right? Because they would get stuck in these little ponds. They would catch them and they would eat them, and that was it. So, but now what they do is they actually maintain those fish because crazy hunters from America like Steve Ranella want to go down there and try and catch one. So they now make something in the realm of like 5,000 times the amount of money that they used to make from hunting the fish in its own right, and just eating it, or hunting it and selling the fish itself. So if you think about that, like that would be something that they're pretty much doing the same thing, except now they're encouraging those fish to continue to breed, but they're also making a lot more money for the tribe and stuff like that because they're actually doing something every year actively. So it's sort of a tourism trade kind of situation. Now, I'm not saying that is the way to go for everybody or anything like that, but something that has continued sustainability without really, just destroying the environment, which is the thing that we're trying to avoid with the deforestation, the palm oil farming, that kind of stuff. And one of the reasons that people down there are willing to do the palm oil farming is that they're looking at it and going like, well, this is an investment in our future. This is something that we can continue to grow for a long time and continue to make money every year. We got a $5 super chat from the Fish Tank Barn. It says there's still not a lot of captive bred yellow tangs or blue tangs around. They have not been raised in a commercially sustainable level. Yes, they actually have been. They're actively being bred as we speak right now. Commercially, they have yellow tangs and blue tangs, Nassau tangs and whatnot, that are being aquacultured, raised. Now, here's the thing. They're not available because they're more expensive than the wild caught. And what does that mean? What does that mean? If that fish at the store, if you walk in as a customer and you look at a fish and you go, well, there's a yellow tang, and this one's $29.99, and this one's $49.99. I know it from my own experience. Almost every single customer goes, I'll take the $29.99 one because it's cheaper. Is it better? Nope. And I would, me and the store owner would literally tell people on a regular basis, don't buy the wild caught fish. And they're like, why do you carry the wild-caught fish then, guy? And they go, because it's the internet age. People could look up the prices of other stores. And if Petco or PetSmart or whatever is carrying a yellow tang for $29.99, and we only have the $49.99 ones, people will literally leave the store and drive over to a chain store to buy the wild-caught one for $20 less. You know, so I think as fish keepers and stuff like that, if we can find the aquacultured version, and here's the thing, some people will ask me, put your money where your mouth is. I literally put my money where my mouth is as far as ordering plants this last week. This last week, I ordered $120 worth of plants from a breeder, or from a plant enthusiast that I know, because he's growing them at his house. He has propagated them in his own care, took care of them, all that kind of stuff. I want to promote more of that, so I do, when I have those opportunities, that's where I put my money. Same thing with the shrimp that I have coming in today. Most of them have been bred and raised in the U.S., so that's, it's one of the big reasons that I went with those guys. It was $240, so it's a whole day's worth of work for the shrimp, and I can literally go to the unboxing of that right now with, hold on, let me turn off the easy green thing. Is this not playing? Hold on. There we go. So here's an unboxing of the shrimp that I got in. This is not going to be a very exciting video, so I'll just continue to kind of talk over it. But this is really the situation. I could probably find cheaper shrimp. I could have found a more thriftier way of going about it, but I like to encourage and put money where I can with local companies. That's I guess here's the shameless tie-in, you guys.
For instance, Aquarium Co-op Easy Green is made in the USA. It's made in Oregon and sold out of Washington, where I live.
Oh, don't do that voice. Don't do that one. But yeah, so the aquarium, like, that would be a perfect example. Is like the Aquarium Co-op, like, is a local small company. That's one of the reasons I endorse the stuff that's going on there. He's working diligently to grow as many of the plants, convert them here, and send them out to people and stuff like that. But it's a small company, and I'm happy to work with them. Easy Green is, like I said, it's made in I think Oregon is where it's made. So it's made in the United States, bottled, all that kind of stuff. So I try to represent that. That's a perfect example. I could buy I could buy fertilizers made from overseas, bring those in, and probably get them cheaper or whatever. But that's really one of those things that, well, I'd rather represent and support local guys. You know what I mean? So as hobbyists, I think it's kind of our responsibility to bite the bullet. Like hold on, Sarah G 100, is that Sarah GL 100? It says she'll gladly take the $49.99 one. That's really where it comes down to. That's really what it comes down to, is like, if we put our money into the system that we want to continue, like buying locally raised aquacultured shrimp, fish, plants, all that kind of stuff, we'll see more of that happening. I recently got a message from somebody that they bought another fish at Walmart because they just couldn't let that fish die at Walmart. It was a betta fish. It was in a cup. It was just like and the thing is, Walmart got you. Walmart got you with the you're really sad for this fish, and you want to buy it because you can't let it die at that store. The only problem is, you give them your money, it encourages the company to continue to do that behavior, right? So, and that honestly is one of the big reasons to tie in with why I even brought up being vegan, is that I didn't want to give my money to the garbage farmers at the time. So this was probably 2000 until I think 2006 or something like that was when somewhere in that time frame was when I was vegan, because I didn't want to give my money to these garbage farmers, these factory farmers and stuff like that. Nowadays, it is easier for me to actually buy, free range food, stuff like that. It's just much easier. We have a lot of technology now to do the follow up and find out about companies and things like that. So I'm not that against buying meat at this point in time, because I can vet where it's coming from to a certain degree. But I am super happy to, like I said, actively put my money where my mouth is, like Preston right there. He says the captive bred puffers. I didn't want to bring those up as an example just yet, because it's going to be on the segment later. But full disclosure, I didn't buy Preston's fish, but I do support somebody like Preston who is breeding puffers that people said you couldn't breed, in an aquarium. And it turns out we go to Germany and they're like, yeah, it's hard, but you can do it. I come back here and I find out Preston is a guy in Arizona, and believe you me, I want to go to Preston's house and shoot a ton of footage. You know what I'm saying? I really want to go there and just film for like 2 or 3 days, and I'm going to figure out how we can do that. Preston travels a lot. You guys know that I probably end up traveling a lot this year at some point in time. One of the places I would much like to go to, I would much love to go to, would be fly down to Arizona, like, maybe March 30th and 31st or something like that. Just that early spring, right? That early spring. And head down there and probably shoot some video and stuff like that. But we'll see how it goes. Elflower Stars is asking, do I flop and drop new fishes into tanks? I think you're asking plop and drop, right? Typically, yes, because I have, from running big coral systems, saltwater fish, all that kind of stuff, all the way down to freshwater fish and things. I don't find a huge advantage to, drip acclimation or any of that kind of stuff. I think it just adds to stress. I think it really does, because, if you're doing, if you're doing drip acclimation, like, just imagine how stressful that is to go from a bag to some weird bucket, right, that has some of your water, some of the tank water, and then now there's some of this new tank water dripping into it. I really don't think that that's a comfortable situation for fish to be in. Now, I would discard fish water that is been shipped. So if fish got shipped in water, I always discard that water. As far as shrimps go, I had the full-on tracking information and all that on this one, and it just really wasn't in the mail all that long, and shrimp don't put out that much waste or anything like that. So I'm not really concerned about shrimp water. I normally just cut the bag open and let the shrimps out. Take my chances and order from good people, so I'm not that concerned about it. Speaking of that, I just had the one of the guys that set up the shrimp, Mr. Eric Martins himself, just sending me messages asking about the shrimp. I don't think he's on YouTube right now. It's Nature Man says, I would rather see fish room tours instead of convention stuff. I agree. That's what I plan on doing this year. I don't think I'm going to any conventions, other than the AGA and Reefworks, which are here. I'll just be able to drive to those. Jake Hussey said, I decided to bare bottom my monster tank as I was siphoning the gravel out yesterday. There was a lot of decent-sized bubbles coming out of it. Is this a case of gas buildup, and should I monitor it? Yeah, it probably is a case of gas buildup, but it really depends on what gas could be building up, and you're going to have to backtrace that by figuring out what your substrate is. Now, if it's gravel, something really inert, I wouldn't be that stressed out about it. A little bit of those gases aren't that big of a deal. But if you have, unknown organics and things like that, then you really would want to keep an eye out for what could be detrimental gases. But typically, if you do have a deep enough bed in your aquarium as far as the substrate goes, and there are gases and things building up in there, a lot of times it can be beneficial. I'm not saying that it always is, but the more information you can get, you can make a better encouraged decision. River 81 says, I'm trying to improve my English. Yeah, me too. I'm right there with you. 100% right there with you. Still trying to improve my English. Which way do I have to move today? I have to go this way. Whee! Oh no, we got the screen capture on the wrong thing. What is going on here? Aha, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. I have to mess with this a little bit. See the chat? That's what the chat looks like for me. All right. We have to scroll back down. That's where we need to scroll. Sorry, this might give somebody vertigo as I scroll down here. Still got to scroll. Still got to scroll. Where was the last one? Okay, Ginger Graves posted about her fish. Johan. Monster fish of the week. The fire eel. I wonder if I remember. I don't remember if I remember talking about the fire eel or not. Aqua Fuzzy. Alyssa Bentley. Dan Squires. January 4th. All right, let's see. We have a lot. We have a lot today. Oh my gosh, we have so many. Okay, I remember looking over these, but I don't remember it being this extensive. Maybe I didn't scroll down far enough. Okay, M. Howie 9. The Fish Barn. That was the last one that we answered before. Okay, January 4th. We're all the way back at January 4th. That was last week. I think it's because you guys are posting during the show. Which is fine. I understand. I would do the exact same thing. I'd be like, oh man, I got a post on there. Anyhow, Jay Swift wrote in, anybody have experience using crushed lava rock as a substrate in their aquarium? You know that stuff. It's available at every rock yard, and lots of people use it as a cheap alternative to clay pebbles when doing aquaponics. Kind of want the black substrate look in this new tank I'm setting up. Would love something a bit better for plant roots and sand. Not as shiny as the black gravel. Lava rock is usable. I've used it before. I found it to be... I would give it a 9 out of 10 for labor, like of just in a bad way. I would say you have to do like so much work with it to keep it clean, to make sure that things are going on pretty well. It really was just a disaster, and I don't like it. I don't recommend it. I would use lava rock in an outdoor situation, but not in a enclosed aquarium. Personally, I don't think. I wouldn't really be into it. Although Jay moved to my area here in Tacoma, so I would say we should go around to some of the rock yards and see what they got, because that might be a fun little... and we could shoot some video for the YouTubes. Ground Prepper just said a like spike. You guys should do a like spike in 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, a uno. Hang loose, bros. Hit the like button. Okay, there we go. I did that requisite like cheesy YouTube thing. You could tell I wasn't that enthusiastic about it, but I do appreciate you guys hitting the like and all that kind of stuff. I can't act like I don't, because I do. I think it's cool. I think it's cool when I'm like, oh man, 300 likes. Somebody likes me. I fall for it. I fall for it just the same as you guys, you know. Post something up on Facebook and somebody's like, I put a heart on here. And I'm like, God damn, somebody hearted it. You know? So little victories, you guys. Oh. Ed Start says, do I agree with Corey about selling plants submersed is better? I think an immersed plant has the best chance to adjust to your tank instead of a submersed plant by the shop you buy it from. I 100% agree with Corey. That is one of our growing practices is submerged plants have and it's like 10 to 1 better conversion rate. If you got 10 that did, you'll have 1 that didn't. Maybe it's 20 to 1. It's the other way around with submerged, or immersed plants, emergent grown plants. So the easiest way to relate that would be it's the percentage of CO2. The free floating available CO2 is going to be one of the biggest issues, and it's the easiest way to look like. It's the easiest way to look at, is that if underwater is 7 parts per million, above water up here in the air that we breathe is about 407 parts per million now. You just think 7 versus 400. That's the difference of availability for CO2. So that's an easy way to relate it in your head, is you just go, plants need CO2 to photosynthesize and grow, and there's only 7 parts per million underwater, and there's 400 parts per million up here in the air, right? A little different. Or is it? Might be 300. Didn't we just go? Or am I gonna? Let me see if I can look that up real quick. Oh, Google. Per million CO2. We are at 406.75 right here. December 2017. Oh, that might be out of date. Let's see here. Daily CO2. We're at 408.11. That's not good. I do recall reading some reports that if we were to go over 400, most of the scientists out there claim that's the no return point. Let's see. Highest ever 411 on January 7th. So yeah, just the other day, it's the highest the reading has ever been, and it just dropped down a tiny bit. 412 right here at Scripps, wherever Scripps is, or maybe Scripps is a different company. This is the NOAA, which National Oceanographic Association of America, which 3 of my family members work at NOAA. Or one's retired now. There used to be 3, now there's only 2. Yeah. So that would be the easy way to relate it to most people as far as submersed versus emergent grown plants. That's why stuff grows so much faster above water. It's just a free availability of CO2. And I know invariably somebody is going to ask, oh, hey, wait a minute, if it's that high in the air that we breathe, can I just mix some of the air that we breathe in? Unfortunately, no, it's not a high enough concentration in the air yet. I mean, maybe someday, but it's not a high enough concentration in the air if the air that we breathe to affect the water column enough to really do anything, because the oxygen is so much higher, because I think oxygen is 17%, I think. How do we look this up? What's in the air we breathe? Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Oh, oxygen's 21%. So I was wrong on that one. Oxygen makes up about 21% of air. 78% of the air is nitrogen. Very exciting. And then the rest is all tiny little amounts like CO2 and stuff. And boron and argon and nonsense like that. So most of the air is and if you're talking about parts per million, so 21% is can we do math here? So million. So 21% would be 210,000 per million versus 400, right? So it's there's just so much oxygen in the air that we breathe already that if you mix that in with water, water's just like, yeah, give me oxygen instead. It doesn't, water doesn't really want to have a ton of CO2 in it. River 81 says, what kind of crypts do you have in the shrimp tank? A ton. I can't answer that question. It's way too many kinds. But I am getting more plants in next week, and I'll probably do a highlight video on that specific thing at some point in time. I've noticed you asked a couple times. I just want to make sure, hey man, I'm not ignoring you. It's so many, there's so many different kinds in there. I'm going to forget, and it's not going to be good content for anybody. Kiwi Mamo sent in, it says, my setup, I like it to be unique. 250 liter, which equates to 40 gallons, joined by a bridge in which the fish used to go in between tanks, and a riparium filled with pothos, spider plants, water rose, and peace lily in there somewhere. The third empty tank will be joined to the two after I decide how I'm going to aquascape. Riparium draws. I tried to hold in that sneeze. That didn't work. I think I almost just killed myself trying to hold it in. The riparium draws from one tank and empties into the other. Kiwi, that's cool, man. That's just cool. I mean, here's the image of it. I like it. That definitely is, that is a unique setup for sure. I would say that's 100%, 100% unique. I have not seen that yet. And that's pretty cool, man. And definitely DIY crown worthy. I like it. Dan Squire says, new vid fresh out the box. A bit of a cop out, but I'm still getting the hang of editing and didn't want to leave it too long. Thanks for sending that in, Dan. It's a great video of a bunch of macro shots that he got with his camera and stuff. I don't think it's a cop out. I think that's just a pretty cool style, man. You got your own funky little style doing some macro photography and doing your thing. Now, here's a picture sent in by Dan. I really like the composition on this. I just would hope that the fish was closer so we could just get a really good look at them and check them out a little bit up close. But that's why I'm saying check out his YouTube video. He's got a bunch of macro pictures on there of the up close of the fish and stuff. Alyssa Bentley sent this in. I like it. I like it. This is funny. From Alyssa, says, do I have to play Barry White? Invite her into the cave, you ridiculous placo. She's all dressed in her breeding colors, and you've got your head all red patch. She's literally edging her way towards the tube, and you keep chasing her away. I have definitely been down this road with fish before. And speaking of Alyssa, I might spin over to Alyssa's this weekend and see if I can't steal one of her little... I think she's got like tiger antlers or cobra antlers or something guppy. Ground Prepper is super mad. This is a little angry face. Why? What happened? Ground Prepper says, wonder what CO2 was 3,000 years ago. I have no idea. Probably 100 parts per million. Or 150 probably. But I've had this problem many times with fish. And it's almost always... It's almost always an issue at some point in time. I normally have this issue with fish that are on a trigger spawn. You know, I think if I'm gonna do the, you know, the trigger spawn, that they're just gonna somehow like just go for it. You know what I mean? And then they don't, and then I'm like, well, this is upsetting, right? Isn't it? Isn't it upsetting when they're not just breeding prolifically? Maybe I have an expectation, and maybe I'm wrong for having that expectation, but, you know, I have an expectation that these fish will get to breeding, but then they don't, and then I'm upset. So I feel you, homie. I feel you. It's happened to me many times, but just persistence, and eventually they'll figure it out. Let's see here. Aquafuzzy says, hey, Joel, why would a fish get dropsy while treating for internal parasites? My goldfish came in with them, seemed fine, then blew up once I treated it. Thanks. So we have to bear in mind that dropsy is typically a culmination from some other disease. Obviously, I'm sure a bunch of people are going to argue with me, but dropsy is generally a prescription of just a lot of things gone wrong. Internal organs are no longer grabbing, and utilizing water properly. This Dropsy's almost always a whole bunch of problems coming up, leading to death's door, which is unfortunate. So there's not just one thing that makes Dropsy happen. It's always going to be like an accumulation of things or whatnot. The best advice I can give is you can try to add some salt, which may or may not help. Yeah, and I haven't had a ton of success with any of that. The idea is to help like exsanguinate overhydration within the body of the fish, but I don't think that that's the greatest idea. The best that I've ever been able to find out is, bring the temperature up just a little bit just to make sure you're in a good range. Do some water changes, keep it clean, and, feed good food. That's always been the best route that I have found, especially, if it's internal parasites that led to dropsy. The one way to battle internal parasites is make sure that you're feeding really high quality food, because there's a good chance that they'll be able to absorb something from that food versus really low quality garbagey kind of food, right? So that's definitely one of the ways to go. James Glenn just asked, do you know if Arizona Aquatic Gardens is a good place to order fish from? I do know many years ago that they were not a good place to order from, but I don't know within a reasonable timeline whether or not they've stepped up their game or anything like that. But if if I had to say, I think the last time I ordered from them was like 6 years ago, so I probably have terrible what's the word? Information. I really have terrible information in regards to that company, you questioning that company. But Dr. Foster's and Smith is closing, so who knows what other big companies are going to exist for very much longer in that order fish kind of space. Johan's been sending us in fish of the weeks, and last week was sort of an exception because he didn't send it in early enough to get it on the Friday show. But his monster fish of the week was the fire eel. I'm not even going to try and say that. The fire eel is a relatively large species of spiny eel. The omnivorous freshwater fish is native to Southeast Asia, which means that omnivorous is a good way to say that a eel just eats anything that'll get in its mouth. It has declined locally because of the trade and overfishing for food. It remains common overall. The fire eel is not a true eel, but an extremely elongated fish with a distinctive pointed snout and underslung mouth. The fire eel is the largest species in its family and can reach up to 3.3 feet in length. That's pretty good. That's a whole yard. And the fish can be hand-fed by its owner, whom the fish starts to recognize rather quickly, which is cool. I've only ever seen these around and don't really have that much information on them personally, but it's a cool picture and really cool. I don't think I'll ever have one, though, because they go bonkers in a planet tank, as far as I know. I don't know that from personal experience. I've been told that by people that keep them. Big D Smoke says Live Aquaria is staying open, I thought. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Live Aquaria is going to stay open or not. Fish Tank Barn says the Live Aquaria part is still open. The rest of Foster's and Smith is closing. Yeah, I think I saw a report that said that they're going to keep Live Aquaria open, but I saw some reports saying the opposite in regards to them actually saying that Live Aquaria was going to stay open. So I'm not sure. It might just be a time will tell kind of situation, and I hope they hang around. I hope they can figure out how to make it in this world. Ginger Graves sent this in last week, and I wanted to do my best to help out with this, but it looks like we got some good fans that were helping out. Throw some comments on there, and it makes sense. From Dan Squires. But it says, what in the world is this? My 40-gallon breeder has been set up for about 6 months. No new fish. I did a 50% water change 2 days before, and I didn't notice any sick fish. I feed the tanks every night after work and look everyone over. I came home to a dozen dead fish, most of them Serpae tetras. I immediately checked my water. Nitrates and nitrites were barely detectable. The pH, KH, and GH were in my normal range. Ammonia was detectable at 0.25 parts per million. Not sure what came first, the ammonia rise or dead fish, or dead fish causing the ammonia to rise. My cories seem fine. My rummy nose tetras still have red noses. The beta is fine. The monster pleco is fine. Lost 2 silver tip tetras, but no other species, just the Serpaes. The dying has stopped for now. Now, I've seen weird stuff like this with captive fish from time to time. I've definitely seen this with captive mammals from time to time, like rats or mice or, small rodents that are trapped in an area. I'm wondering if a battle royale broke out and this is just a big old cut, because this looks like a big old fish cut. That's kind of how a big fish cut heals out. Looks like fungus, got weird fungus on it. It might actually have a fungus healing on a cut. But I've seen, people come home to a whole tank that has fought to the death, basically. And I don't know if there's any way to prevent it realistically. It seems to be a psychosomatic kind of thing, like one kills another one somehow, or one dies, or something happens that just kind of triggers this sort of crazy, freak out behavior. Seen it before, and I have no explanation as to why it happens other than it's just sort of the herd mentality kind of thing. Like, why are these buffaloes stampeding? Like, we don't really know. They just are, and we got to figure out how to stop the stampede. So, yeah, I mean, that seems to be the case to me, because it looks like a fish cut, and hopefully you heal it out. I would basically be adding meds to heal wounds and that kind of stuff, and make sure that those fish just maintain healthy and keep them rolling. Johan says new here. Whoops. Short introduction. Hey everyone, became a Patreon today, so a short introduction is in place. Johan, 36 years old from the Netherlands. I have a 220-gallon planted African cichlid tank. Something you want to know? Just ask. And look at that. That's like a great way to introduce yourself. That's a great way to pop in and introduce yourself and just let people know what's up, and that you did join in to, the Oceaneers. Jay Swift said, I had just mentioned on the Monday live stream that you could go back and watch the entire group of 901 videos if you like. I had a look at how many hours of video that is. That's 504 hours, 10 minutes, and 6 seconds, or more than 3 weeks of continuous videos. I didn't realize it was that deep, but you have a really good point, and thank you for looking that up, because I didn't realize we were at 504 hours, which is that is a lot. That is a lot of videos and stuff like that, and it wouldn't be possible without you guys kicking in on the Patreon. So it feels like synergy, right? Is that the word I'm looking for? Probably not, but you know what I mean. Andrew Wizerma, Wiresema, I don't know. Andrew W. Says, can't seem to find an option to post pics anymore. I've used it in the past. This sucks. But the reality is, as I mentioned right down here, open the app on the desktop on your phone. You can do it on your phone. You just need to open it on the desktop, and you'll be able to post pictures just like you figured out after just a little bit. So there we go. I think Andrew was asking about this sump last week, and we can look at some of what's going on here and answer this question. So this is an acrylic sump I bought with 120 gallons a few months ago. The system was too big for me to set up since I was upstairs, and it would have been too heavy for the floors. But now I want to use the sump for a 30-gallon instead. But during the cleaning process, weight got put on the top corner there, and it split inwards. What's the simplest way to repair it? Not worried what it's going to look like. It'll be hidden away. Okay, so we got a big problem here. We have a split seam and some kind of weird bend going on. It looks like there's a crack right here, or it's just one of the little baffle pieces like this one that holds some kind of tray insert or whatever in place. Now, you could fix this. The thing is, I'm trying to think of the thicker weld-on. Which one is the thicker of the weld-on? So the smaller the number, the more watery it is, I guess. I was going to say
Lower viscosity.
But yes, weld-on 16 is probably going to be the only way that you could attempt to fix this. Now, what I would do is actually cut. You're going to have to cut all the panels is what I would do. I would cut the panels and just reassemble the whole entire cube. Now, that's obviously a monumental bit of hard work for a lot of people out there, so maybe you don't want to go into it. But that's what I would do, is I would cut all the sides down and mount it, put it in the clamps, and redo it that way. That's the way that I would do it, just to make sure that it's legit. You could technically kind of clean out this area or whatnot and make sure you use something really thick like Weld-On 16 and fill in those gaps and clamp it for a couple of days and leave it and see what you got. But I typically would just cut it down and make a new box if it's broken like this. Oddball showed up and said, break's over, back to work. All right. Good to see you. Do. All right. I think I'm caught up with the chat. So, Andrew, that's what I would do, is I'd actually just trim these sides down, basically take the whole thing apart, trim all the sides, and put it back together as a cube. But you could use Weld-On 16 with like a block of wood in there and some clamps and that kind of stuff. And you might get lucky, but you do want to make sure you have the nice. When I say thick, it's still pretty runny, but it's like super glue gel versus standard super glue. So I would use the Weld-On 16 and see if you can get it to work. Johan sent in. This is the pic of the 220 I mentioned in the introduction part. The photo was taken shortly after filling up the tank, so it's still a bit cloudy. That's not bad. I'm not mad at that level of cloudy. Nice looking tank, and I'm certainly not mad at that amount of cloud. I'm not freaking out. Edel Gonzalez, what's up? What's up, Edel? Edel Gonzalez sent in, it's a jungle sometimes. Loving it. Yeah, this is the main reason why I don't have Valsnaria anymore, because it turns into these big 6-foot-long crazy leaves, and it's chaos. It's super difficult to keep track of. Stephen Pope sent in a question of chicken video. Yeah, chicken video will be coming. Jay Swift sent in, so the wife disapproved of any external filtration on our apartment tank, so I just about finished up the customized internal filter, and I'm now working on the hardscape. This has the filters. This has like the sponge filters in it and stuff. That's crazy. It's crazy, am I right? That's pretty wild, and I think it's pretty cool, man. I kind of want to come over and shoot this tank once it's running. Let me know, Jay. I'm going to come out there and take some pictures of it. Some still pictures. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. I got the Shodentai puppies, the Shoutadeni puffers myself. They are awesome. They can be fairly expensive, but Preston John is growing them in Arizona. In Arizona, the United States, right? And now's your opportunity to try and get some if you can. SpottedCongoPuffer.com right here. I'll highlight it. That's where you want to go if you have information, if you have questions or need information on how to get some spotted Congo puffers. Highly recommend it. This is literally the guy who has fish in my tank. Go blow it up there. He's only got 120 of them ready to go. That's a lot. Get over there and sell them out. I think that's the key. Preston also sent in the DIY pre-sump, is what he's calling it. Experimenting. Sometimes I think I enjoy MacGyvering more than the fish. I get that. That's not that weird. Johan S. sent in his fish of the week, which I want to save till next week. Rumbust is watching the shrimps. And he's asking, is it possible to watch the shrimp tank and not look for and or see shrimps that should be culled? No. Every time I've looked in my big fish tank or my big shrimp tanks, I've literally been like, yeah, I should cull some of those fish. That's should definitely cull some of those shrimp, and that's what I should do, but I always forget. All right, coming up to the top on Ginger, her fish has actually started doing better. He's swimming around now. I've made it to my mission to save this one fish. I named him Neptune. I lost half of my 40-gallon breeder stock in 2+ days. I'm still unsure what I did. Did a fish die and I missed it? Yeah, this is a bit of a conundrum, and I am going to send you a longer response, mainly because I'm just noticing that it's 4:15 and I have to cut the show down to size. I got to go help out the sitter and Vicky Toria and get us ready for the evening tonight, which is going to be important, aka take care of my baby, you know, so that she's taken care of and not a neglected baby, which is not the plan. Or it's not the plan to have a neglected baby. There we go. Is that what I mean? Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Anyhow, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. What was our top number? Well, we just basically reached our top number of 136, 135. Yep, looks like we're at the highest that we've been all day, which is weird. We normally hit that in the middle, but now it's going back down. Now that I mentioned I got to be closing down the show, so that's natural. We got a $2 super chat from Megan Ness that I forgot, and Rumbust says 80 likes. We can do better than that. Did you super chat to tell people to do more likes? That's kind of wild. I do like it. But also thank you to Daryl Deemer and the Fish Tank Barn, along with Joel G of New Zealand. Like I said earlier in the show, if you want to support this channel and the stuff that we're doing, you could go buy stuff at Aquarium Co-op through our affiliate link. You could go buy anything basically at Amazon. You just go through. Man, excuse me. I got to go to my storefront and get my. Oh man, I got to sign in. It's not like my password is super easy to type out. Did I get it? No. Still not correct. Did I get it? Oh, I got it. There we go. So I'm going to copy that URL, and I can drop it in here so you guys can check it out. If you click on this link, it takes you over to Amazon, shows you a bunch of stuff in my store, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. You don't necessarily have to buy stuff in the store. You can buy whatever the hell you wanted to buy when you were there. And it will let you know that I was the person that sent you to Amazon. If you don't want to use my affiliate link, just be sure to use somebody's affiliate link before you go to Amazon, because you might have clicked on some kind of accidental advertising pop-up window nonsense thing, and it could have stored your cookie. Speaking of cookies, I got to get back to my cookies. Would have stored a cookie in your web browser, so it would know that that pop-up person, whatever, is how they got sent to Amazon, and those guys are going to get paid to keep making stupid pop-up ads and things like that, which is crazy. So be sure to use somebody's affiliate. Be sure to go to Amazon, and be sure to go to Aquarium Co-op, and be sure to go to Patreon, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. I got to get rolling here. Otherwise, I'll just keep talking for a long, long time. All right. Later.